They chose this life. You ended their misery. But it's hard to feel like we did right.
Is it done then? And do you have the witness? I know what it is to use that relic to call the flood. Even though it is necessary, even though it is merciful, it will stay with you. Always. One day it will be a new Tidebringer's turn to call the flood, when I am down there. And then another for you. Only then will we be free of it. Free of the memory. Come, meet me upstairs outside the reliquary. There is one more thing to be done to complete the rising. The Vale of Tears is only to be crossed by the High Abbot. Andra's witness is the key. Through the Vale is the reliquary. When we are done here, pass into the reliquary, and your responsibilities will be revealed to you. The final step of the rising requires that you use Andra's witness to seal me below with my brothers and sisters. Forgive me. The rising. The final step. A slight correction. You will not be sealing us in the halls of silence.
What? After all that?
The only way I will allow you to become the High Abbot is if you can kill me, and those who stand with me, here and now. I have made up my mind. Have you ever swum in the open ocean, Tidebringer? Then perhaps you will relate. When you swim in the ocean, you are at the mercy of the current and the waves. It requires a great deal of trust. When I was a young man in Rawatai, I would paddle out in a small kayak and go spearfishing in the Gulf. One day, when I was swimming, I was caught in a rip current and pulled miles from my boat. I stayed afloat long as I could, but there was no getting to safety. It was night, and the water was black. I took a final breath and sunk below the surface. Then there came a glow beneath me. It was a moon ray the size of a caravel, if you can imagine such a creature. I saw it swimming up toward me, and even as things began to grow dark around me, I knew I was safe. I awoke on shore. That day, I pledged myself to Andra, because I knew she had seen me safely through, and that she always would. The glow of that moon ray has always been a beacon in my life. If I am sealed beneath, I will be forced to part with it, and 1,000 other memories that make me what I am. I will die, afraid and alone.
What about everything you said? About trusting Andra, surrendering your memories to her?
I thought I would be ready. My trust in Andra was absolute. But I am weaker than I imagined. I will defeat you and stay on as High Abbot, or I will die here, knowing who I am. Either would be better. I have seen what lies in store. I do not wish that fate for any of you. Let us serve Andra in other ways.
I used to have this big hound, like to dig for bones. Well, he'd be real excited right about now. What?
Deceitful wretch! Grave robber! You who dig for that which you did not bury, speak! Explain yourself and be judged! You seek what is mine! What was rightfully lost! Your actions speak for themselves. The battery opened. The forge ignited. You set free souls that hid from me. That stole from me and evaded my judgment. The dwarves sealed their own fate. The forge was meant to be forgotten. And now, here you are again, denying peace to the buried. It was never meant for mortal use. Such power, such truths lie within it. It can bring only ruin. When the Pargrunin came to the White March, they were peaceful. They shared common beliefs and purpose. Their visions for the Forge tore them apart. You have seen this for yourself. They would have destroyed themselves in the end. You need only look to the history of your own civilization for assurance. How many wars, how many fallen empires might have been averted if only their leaders could forget the objects of their ambition. I mourned the loss of the Pargrunin. Misfortune brought them here. They did not deserve to end so soon. What the world casts aside, I take into my care. A thing may be forgotten, but it is never alone as long as I am here. They were lost children, abandoned, fixed on a purpose that no longer had meaning. I took them in, gave them new purpose. I did not create them, but yes, they are mine. They were his once. I won't deny it. He created them as assistants to carry out his work on Eora. But he has long been the overseer of progress in the world. Leaving things behind has always been his way. I allow him to leave his past in my care, so that it does not hold him back. I suppose we do. But then, the gods have always been able to accomplish far greater things when working together. Speak your mind. Careful what you accuse a god of, mortal. And what if I did, mortal? It does him no harm to forget. On the contrary, it lifts a burden. If Abaddon remembered, it would threaten the harmony between the gods. It was not so long ago that conflict between us led to disaster in your world, and the death of one of our number. Memory is but an image we create to make sense of the present. It carries no truth or meaning but what we ascribe. A slight alteration to it is a small price to pay for peace. Memory deceives. It distorts. It reimagines. This is no different. The peace between the gods is already fragile. It will not withstand another shock. Speak your mind. Some things that are forgotten must never be remembered. Not merely for the benefit of those who forgot, but for the entire world. There can be no second thoughts, no sympathy or stays of execution. The Eyeless were born to fulfill this task, though even their creator did not know it. They are single-minded and relentless. They do not flinch when called upon to do what is necessary. Kith owe them a great debt for the troubles they have hidden away. You may ask. Memories are the spirits of the past. You of all people should know their sway on the present, Watcher. Mortals measure the worth of their lives in memory. Who will remember me? How long until I am forgotten? Memory governs every thought, informs every choice. It can fuel passion, understanding, love, or it can create obsession, madness. You have seen it plague many souls in your travels. Consider the old Watcher who inherited unspeakable crimes from birth, or the young woman who committed herself to Brackenbury for love of things she remembered she had, or the fisherman whose life became a sentence the day he killed his sister, or the Glonfathen boy for whom an old medallion was worth more than all the fruits of his labors. They could be free from their burdens, if only they could forget. For some, perhaps, but for many the memory is all that remains of it. The fires of cold morn died long ago, yet vengeance still burns in this construct's mind. What is vengeance but a fire fueled by memory that consumes the soul?
A fun way to kill time?
Cold morn is not but a memory now. If it no longer intruded on her thoughts, no longer haunted her dreams, she could live a life of her choosing. So often do we confuse memory with identity. But memory is who we believe we were, not who we actually are. She would have a different identity now, a more peaceful existence, if she could forget what led her down this path.
But I would lose my favorite conversation starter.
Would your life not have a better course, Amawa, if the faults of another lifetime were not dragging you down?
I used to think so. But turning your back on something doesn't make it go away. Just makes it easier for someone to stick a knife in your spine.
The source of those wounds is long gone. The memory was all that could do you harm. Even when problems have run their course, memory can be the stone that sinks you into the abyss. Indeed? And what has led you to conclude you know better than a god, mortal? That hardly sounds like an improvement on inner peace. Is that the extent of your argument?
There may be hope for you yet, Watcher.
Your reasoning is interesting, mortal. Perhaps there is something to it. But it is not my will to simply do good. Those broken souls that fail your test, those are the ones I love most. For no other god will have them. What small mercies they ask of me, I will always grant. Was there something else, mortal? Do not play coy with a god, Watcher. I know you have seen his death. I feel it whenever a forgotten thing is taken from me. Abidin did not deserve to die here. This place, it was the least I could do to give his remains some privacy. The least I could do for ending his life. I called the moon down to me, Ioni brother. It was against his wishes. He would not listen to reason, would not listen to me. In his madness, he splintered the moon, but it was not enough. The greatest of the fragments still fell toward that which he would protect. In the end, he took position where it would fall, and absorbed the impact himself. Ioni brother is their smaller sibling, tiny next to them. That time has been forgotten now, and so his death belongs to me. Everything he was before the impact. No! He cannot know! He must never know! Understand, he was not always as he is now. His body was not all he left behind. He was devoted to progress and industry from the beginning. But so too was he devoted to preservation. In those times he would let nothing go. Nothing could be forgotten. His will was iron long before his body. Time has finished much of what I started. I cannot tell you that, mortal, for fear of undoing all its costly work. We agreed long ago, all of us, not to alter the course of Kith's civilization. Not directly. Not unless there were no other choice. But in this matter, there was no other choice. He understood that as well as anyone. It was for duty that he opposed it. I would have stopped it if I could, but by then it was too late. The other gods knew what had to be done, but they lacked the will to go through with it. Even gods have their attachments. To erase all knowledge of such a grand thing required unthinkable devastation. The Eastern Reach, Deadfire. Mine was the only solution. When I called down Ioni brother, they remained silent. Even Abaddon. He knew it was for the best, but he tried to stop it all the same. Perhaps deep down I knew he would. I should have expected it. I could have stopped it. You may ask. The great conundrum of a god is how close to become with your subjects. Too far and they lose hope. Too close and your own judgment fails.
I guess dropping a rock on their heads is one way to fix that.
Civilizations are meant to ebb and flow. Allow them to persist for too long in power or knowledge, and you invite catastrophe. There was a time when we let our sympathies get the better of us. When memories were allowed to persist that should have been washed away. The other gods could not be moved to act. I did what had to be done without them. I speak of what is forgotten. I failed that day, but my purpose was achieved in the end. I will not dredge up the memory to satisfy idle curiosity. The death of a god is a calamity. You are living in the aftermath of one such death. Surely you can understand. He deserved better. Of all the other gods, he was the only one who acted, who held to his convictions. Yes. I admired him for that. Whatever he was to me, it was not meant to last. Always our duty is to Eora first. I knew he opposed what I intended, that he would wish to preserve what I meant to destroy. I knew it would cause a rift that might never be mended. But I never imagined he'd go so far. I never imagined it would mean I would never know him as I once did. Because it might cause him to remember. No, mortal. Better that we should exist as we are now. What happened once must never happen again. Bad enough that I am cursed to remember it. You may ask. On the contrary, mortal, their work must continue. Far too much was uncovered while they lay dormant. Those who know too much of the White Forge will be washed clean from Eora, and then the Eyeless shall rest once more. Even if it is as you say, there is nothing that can be done. The Eyeless do not think for themselves. They have only the purpose that is given to them. They do not stop until the purpose is fulfilled. They will not change course now for me or anyone. I am sorry. Only if those they pursue are no longer a threat. The Raid Sarens were stopped before they could take the White Forge. In your case, Watcher, you are well beyond that now. And if what you say is true, then the Deerwood is as well. The interventions of gods seldom work out in anyone's favor. Our touch is too heavy. The world crumbles beneath it. It is why we so often enlist the help of mortals. They execute our wishes with greater care. I have done far too much already. Your determination is commendable, but the eyeless number in the thousands. You will need more than strength or luck. I will give you what aid I can. I bade the Eyeless to remain hidden when at rest. They are gathered in the hollow of a great rock, splintered from Ione Brother. It lies in a flooded crater known as Kairon's Scar. Know, too, that they were built to answer the call of their master's hammer. When they hear it strike, they come to its aid. If you were to take that piece of his hammer from here and reshape it in Abaddon's forge into a likeness of the original, you might be able to call them to you. But destroying them would be another matter. I know of one way, but only from the center of the Lion's Den. Only with their master's hammer in your service. If you can do all this, if you can reshape what remains of Abaddon's hammer and bring it inside their lair, I can instruct you there on what you would need to do. And I will see you through when the time comes. If you do not, be assured, they will come for you as they did for the Pargrunen. Careful as you approach the lake. When I claimed the Eyeless, I made sure they would not be discovered while they slept. Many of my most devoted followers stand watch there. They will not allow you near. And there is something far worse. Something more fearsome and dangerous than any Eyeless. Let us hope you do not attract its attention.
before you swing that thing.
I've heard enough.
This threatens all of us now.
She's right. We've got to fight together.
See, Darian? He'll tell ya. We can stop him!
If he's seen them, he knows better. Something killed a whole crew of hunters out in the wood. Tore them apart like dolls, insects.
Something like the creatures that attacked my fort, perhaps?
I told ya! All we gotta do is get him in range of these cannons and then we blast them!
We don't even know what they are.
The destruction my dreams warned me of. And your greed and recklessness have brought them on us all!
You burning our village didn't help matters none.
It wasn't my clan that attacked you.
No difference. One ogre stinks as bad as the next.
I came to offer my clan's help. The White March has been our home for centuries. We'll defend it alongside you. Sound it anywhere in the White March, and 3 of my best warriors will be at your side. Your battles become ours.
What's your plan for dealing with them exactly?
That lake's notorious. Folk never come back from that. Oh.
You'll need all the help you can get. I have fewer men to offer than I would like, but the iron flail stands ready. Our siege weapons are at your disposal.
The same ones you threw at the battery's walls?
These Eyeless will come for us all if they aren't stopped here and now.
Forget it. You're not bringing your army into our backyard. Tell him. Guess you're right. Won't be anything left of Stalwart if we don't stop these monsters anyway.
Ahem. You know, those heavy cannons you fixed might come in handy. Hear me out. Karen's Scar should be just in range for those guns. You just point out your target and I'll do the rest.
If those things are on the move, we don't have much time. If you're really gonna stop them, take this. It's the best of the ore we've pulled from Stalwart's mines. It's not much, but it's good enough to make the old Pargrunen Smiths proud. I'm sorry about what I said before. Just don't take it out on the rest of the village.
Wait till I tell the kids about the time their mother charged into a frozen lake swarming with giant golems.
Dead on!
I'll get it open. Finished. Sure.
Let's go!
Things have really got it in for us.
Let's go! Let's go!
Dead on!
Gotcha!
Didn't we already fight these things?
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Could have done without the tentacle.
You have done well to have come so far. I confess I was not certain you would make it. But I do not wish to give false hope. The greater challenge remains in front of you. Running through the core of this rock is a large growth of crystal. You will know it when you see it. A blow to the crystal would reverberate through the walls of this place. Strike it enough and the entire structure would crumble. The Eyeless would be buried. Of course, it would take a person years to cause enough damage. Then you know what must be done. Strike the crystal with Obidon's hammer. The Eyeless will wake and come to its call. Join in striking the crystal. They will cluster together and bury themselves. I have realized it is best that they should be ended, for within each of them is a small piece of Obidon himself. Upon their deaths, those fragments and the memories they contain will be safely dispersed. I had not considered the dangers of allowing them to persist, until a watcher appeared at my abbey. A single strike upon the crystal will not be enough. The Eyeless respond only as long as the hammer rings. You will need to remain until their work is complete, wielding the hammer until the walls come crumbling down. Your sacrifice will be mourned, but your fate is already sealed. The Eyeless cannot be reasoned with or fled from. One day not far from now, they would kill you and level the Deerwood. You have seen what they will do. This is the way you can stop them. And the truth is that you are marked by the Eyeless for a reason. It would be better for all if the things you have seen were forgotten.
Ain't that convenient?
Crushing's a bad way to go. Maybe we should just hang ourselves.
A clean slate for us and the world. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe I should do this. Perhaps that's why Andr led me to you after all.
I would have a word with the salty wench when this is over. Let's go! Let's go!
Let me do this. I've spent so long regretting my choices. It would be good to balance the scales. Let me do this. I've spent so...
The gods really have it in for you. I wish they knew you like I did.
As long as I live, Masuk will sing your name alongside Persok's.
I just hope you're not doing this for all those louts in Stalwart. Even the new ones ain't worth it.
Straight into the fire, then. Your chances aren't favorable, but at least you've learned to embrace the test. I told you I'd be good for you, Watcher.
You're a brave soul. Wish I'd met you sooner.
shatter and sink, discarded like worn tools. Why have you consigned us to oblivion? We do not cherish violence, but we will fight to defend the legacies of this world. In one hand, a hammer, in the other, a mace. We protect the greatest works of civilization, lest it collapse beneath its own weight. We would sooner sacrifice our own bodies than dislodge a single stone from such a place. Why do you torment us with baseless accusations? Then we were betrayed. And we were made to betray something we cherish. The bedrock of civilization. Better for her tides to ebb and her seas to dry up than to cover a single stone the Ingwithans laid. Each culture builds on the bones of the last, yet many only look up at where they would go, never down at the foundations that bear them. Like a mason who builds a listing tower. What peril do they inflict on their progeny? And what dishonor on their forebears? It is unwise to douse a lamp in darkness, to cut the legs from a table. This forgetting is suicide, heresy. Every advance in the crafts and institutions of Kith was forged by skill and sacrifice. A people cut off from their history will wither, and they deserve no less. To pull the blinders from the eyes of gods and Kith. That is why we must return to ourself and restore Abidan. When Ione Brotha fell, Abidan lost much. His will to preserve, the memory of how and why he died. But he built us with fragments of his own soul. In returning, we can restore what was taken from him. Then do not look to it for one. History is not a moral force, but a set of facts. These facts show Kith where they have come from, and how to move forward. But the memory of those wars has likely saved them from another now, when it would shatter a Barondir would. And how are such ties forged but through years of peace? You speak of a worthy goal, but only a steadily built history can achieve it. And their brethren have built a culture that stretches across Eora, all because they recognize the importance of their shared legacy. To what exactly? A war with the peoples there? A deadly blight or crippling disease? The future you would have given them is uncertain, yet it would have bequeathed Kith nothing so great as Durgan's steel. The problem is not that they remember too much of their history, but rather too little. Raid Serens and Deerwoodens alike began as pioneers from Adir. They all came seeking opportunity. Were they to look farther back, they would see their common origins and desires. A painful truth. Maybe so. But we would not cast history aside over one such example. And how many others suffer adversity and rise above it? Perhaps the problem you speak of lies not in our history, but in her.
Hey, I'm standing right here.
To be sundered in this manner is to change, violently. And simply knowing what was lost does not restore it. We understand something of this. We admit that history can become a hindrance. Even so, we must restore Abidan. A facile argument. One that defends stasis, not progress. Just as fire clears dead wood from a forest, struggle makes way for new developments. Conflict is part of progress. Peace and ignorance is not worth keeping. Yet your hand kindled its fires. A fluke, but a costly one. Still, you point to an exception. And what great achievement has not begun with failure? Would you condemn the world to stagnation simply to avoid it? Failure is the price of progress. And we have listened. Burdens strengthen the bearer, and they warn against repeated mistakes. Why would you discard them so hastily? A rare opportunity, for you have the chance to answer them, to do things left undone. That presumes that some questions cannot be resolved. Yet such destructive memories are rare. Surely others are strengthened by retrospection, even amidst pain. Pleasing or no, that memory was a part of her. In surrendering it, she lost a part of herself.
The part that spent every waking hour obsessed with old history, perhaps. What I lost was a burden, and one that bent me over for years.
It would be better if Kith did not become trapped by guilt, sorrow, and shame. But we speak of what should be. You recognize what is. We confess that we had little understood how memory shapes and stunts Kith. Even so, we must restore Abidan. We shall see this world and its people restored.
The Eyeless disappeared beneath the lake, their bond to Andra finally severed. With this threat ended, hope returned to the White March. Hunters returned to the wildernesses, and travelers to the roads. Tales of the Watcher's bravery replaced stories of monsters in the woods. The villagers of Stalwart busied their hands with work and their tongues with song, eager to seize on the promise of peace.
Lead the way.
Amazing.
How do you do?